Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Knowledge. Welcome to Brews and Reviews, and today I'm reviewing Flatbush ZOMBiES' new EP, Now More Than Ever, and I am sipping on a Great Divide Collette Farmhouse Ale. That's a 7.3% ale coming in from Denver, Colorado, and this is a good beer and makes me want to get right into this album. I'm a fan of Flatbush ZOMBiES, particularly in the beginning. Their production was innovative, and Michi Darko no doubt has one of the best voices in the game currently. 3001: A Space Odyssey was one of the best albums of 2016. However, since then, they've been rather inconsistent. Vacation in Hell was inconsistent, and Escape from New York was even more inconsistent. But now that they've reduced my expectations, I think it was a good time to release an EP. After that group album was not well received by critics and the public, it was probably a good time to release a smaller project with a lot less features on it and guest appearances and get out there and show us what they could do. Herb kicks it off with exactly what we would expect from the world's most psychedelic hip-hop group. It's the obligatory weed song. Zombie Juice kicks it off with a little gruffness in his flow, and I'm not sure if that's from smoking so much weed or if he's trying to do his best Michi Darko impression or what the case may be there. However, he does switch up his flow a bit into something that's a little off-brand for him. He turns up the pitch on his cadence at the end of every line. Erick then kicks an adequate flow, and then we have a nice beat change up that accentuates Michi's flow and really showcases how different he is. And I always appreciate this style when they do that and they provide the beat change up just for Michi's verse. And it's something that I think they should do more to highlight his skill. His lyrics on this flow are like the ponderings of many high people. He says, "Nothing's more creative than a hater's imagination. The most dangerous animal on the planet is two-legged. Cosmic retribution, baby, karma gon' getcha. Reality a marvelous illusion, the simulation."
Dude, is this like even real, dude?
I Am Legend is the next track, and it's also the single from the EP, and the video for this is crazy. I suggest you watch that if you haven't seen it already. It's a very unique style and not something that I've necessarily seen in a hip-hop video before. There's lots of various clips cut in there, and it's hard to catch everything that's on the clips the first time you're watching it because there's 4 different screens and 4 different things happening at the same time while you're hearing these verses. So I think it was a unique style for a video, especially for an EP. And it's better than some of the videos that I've seen off their album. It kind of made me appreciate the song more. Meech kicks it off, and he has a good verse, of course, because of his voice, but there's not much substance in what he's saying, which is an ongoing problem that we hear throughout this EP. I kind of like Erick's verse a little bit more. It's a slightly different style for him on this kind of track with a bit of a smoother flow. Overall, I don't think this song stands out as a single. The beat does have their signature psychedelic bounce, but it's not distinguished from many of their other songs. The next song, Quicksand, is a Michi Darko solo track, and that always has the potential to be interesting. They seem to be leaning very heavily on Michi throughout this EP, or maybe it's just his voice sounding more prominent with the shorter format. This song in particular feels a bit like a wasted opportunity because I really like Erick's beat on it, and with Michi going solo, he could have done so much more. Because Michi, with the best voice in the game, has a lot of overdubs over himself on the first verse with somebody shouting over his gruffness, and I don't know why they would try to mask his gruff flow and his signature style, the way that he does it. It just doesn't seem like something you'd want to do. His voice has so much power, you don't need to add these kind of shouting overdubs to it. It doesn't really work. And that technique is followed not just in the first verse, but on the chorus as well. The second verse is in somewhat of a singing style and is actually much better. It makes you wish that the whole song was like this, and I think the beat that had potential could have been utilized better with this style of verse that Michi does well. And you wouldn't think so, but Michi actually has a pretty good singing voice. Dirty Elevator Music is the next track, and this is a standout to me on this EP. It has a really nice beat that's accentuated by boom bap drums and a backwards loop of a piano or possibly a violin. It's hard to tell because it's backwards, but the beat as a whole and the song as a whole has a very 90s feel. It's not just the boom bap that we're hearing of the drums that make it sound like the 90s, but both Erick and Michi's verse reminds me of some East Coast rap that they likely listened to when they were growing up. Michi's verse really reminds me of an Organized Confusion or some similar type of group from that era and that place in time. Erick's verse very similarly reminds me of Redman, and he even shout-outs Redman in his first couple lines on the verse, so you know that it was somewhat intentional and that they were really going for that 90s feel on this song. Michi's verse here is the best flow on the album. Erick's flow is really good too, and it seems like for all the backsliding that they may have done as a group, that Erick may have developed a little bit. Blessings is another good beat, and I always like it when Flatbush Zombies mellow it out, because with that psychedelic thing that they've got going on, it really works in the mellow vibes. And this is the kind of track that will make you feel like you're high, even if you're not, and if you are, it'll make you feel even more high. In addition to the beat, the chorus also works with some adequate crooning from Erick, but the verses from Zombie and Erick are forgettable. But that forgettable nature of what they're talking about and how they're saying it does help to showcase the beat and how intricate it actually is. And there is a nice change up at the end of the beat where it slows it down even more, and it'll just kind of make you feel like you're falling. They continue to keep things mellow on the final track, When I'm Gone, and this one gets even more introspective and somber than the previous track. Zombie kicks it off talking about some heavy shit. He says, "Play the victim, seen the roles switch. Remember how to love your own shit. Remember how to love your homies. Remember people out here homeless. This is living at your own risk." Fittingly, Michi closes the whole thing out, and he always sounds good over these sadder tracks because they showcase the power and emotion in his voice, and his lyrics when he's getting really personal are something that are always interesting to absorb. With that in mind, he has lines like, right in this part of the verse, he's almost mumbling, but that shows these other MCs how to do mumble rap right, because you can still make out what he's saying, and more importantly, you get that little sly smile and the head nod, and you identify with what he's saying, but also you're really feeling his flow on the whole thing, which you don't get out of many mumble rappers. Unfortunately, this is another inconsistent project from Flatbush Zombies, with the back half being so much better than the first, and strong songs like Dirty Elevator Music and When I'm Gone just accentuate how weak the first half of the album is. With a 6-track format, there shouldn't be any skippable songs. There's just not room for it. And it's really hard to see these guys not reach their full potential. There's so much talent there. The beats are always interesting and they have their own style to them, and the rhymes are always good. The structure of the songs are always set up good, and they have the best voice in the game with Michi Darko. It just makes you wish that they were doing so much more. And it's not just Michi. I've heard stellar flows from all three of them at various points in their careers, but I do wish that their lyrics had a little bit more substance, and maybe that's what needs to grow here to make these more standout tracks. I really hope that it wasn't the recognition of their full potential that we heard on 3001, but to date, that's their best album. It does seem like it was all downhill from that album, with each project being a little less spectacular than the one that came before it, but there are still glimmers on this album of that style that made you start listening to them in the first place. That being said, I'm going to give Flatbush Zombies now more than ever a 6 out of a 12-pack. Hey, that's one beer for every song, but I'm really hoping that I can give them more on their next project. Thank you for watching Brews and Reviews. If you liked my review of Flatbush Zombies now more than ever, please go ahead and hit like below. And if you want to see more hip-hop and hops related content, there's some video links popping up now. And you can also hit the subscribe button that's next to me to be informed every time I drop new hip-hop and hops related content. Until then, I'll see you next time.